Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Surbhi Sharma. The top stories we are tracking for you on Friday, the 14th of December. Indian President inaugurates 5th Enterprise India show in Myanmar. Sri Lanka's top court rules President's Parliament dissolution illegal. And Bangladesh ruling Awami League kicks off election campaigning. And now for all the details. Indian President Ramnath Kovind on Thursday inaugurated the 5th Enterprise India show along with Myanmar's Vice President in Yangon City. President Kovind, while addressing business leaders, expressed that India has a multi-pronged approach to strengthen its economic and commercial relations with Myanmar.
Indian President Ramnath Kovind on Thursday said that India has multi-pronged approach to strengthen its economic and commercial relations with Myanmar. He made the remarks while inaugurating the 5th Enterprise India show along with Myanmar's Vice President U Myint Sui in Yangon City. The event saw participation of leading Myanmar businesses and over 50 Indian companies from globally reputed majors to small medium-sized enterprises engaged in cutting-edge manufacturing.
We have a multi-pronged approach to strengthen our economic and commercial relations with Myanmar. Through our infrastructure projects, we are enhancing connectivity between our countries. And through understandings and agreements, we are facilitating land border crossing for enhancing trade and tourism.
During his 4-day official visit, President Kovind met Myanmar's top political leadership to pursue India's high-level bilateral engagements under its Act East and Neighbourhood First policies.
In news from Pakistan, Pakistan's army has expressed hope for the success of the US efforts for Afghanistan reconciliation process, saying it will deal with terrorism through a regional approach. This comes after US President Donald Trump last week wrote a letter to Prime Minister Imran Khan seeking the nation's support for Afghan peace. Pakistani army on Thursday expressed hope for success for the US efforts for Afghan reconciliation process and called on Washington for dealing with terrorism through a regional approach. The remarks were made by the army's top officials during a monthly meeting focusing on regional security situation. Pakistan's commitment renewal to facilitate the reconciliation process comes after US President Donald Trump last week wrote a letter to Prime Minister Imran Khan seeking his government support for Afghan peace. Last week, speaking at a press conference, Pakistan Army's spokesperson Major General Asif Ghafoor has also said that political reconciliation must succeed and that the country is taking every step needed to make the US succeed in its efforts. Washington has long been pushing Islamabad to lean on Taliban leaders, who it says are based in Pakistan, to bring them to the negotiating table. It often accuses the South Asian nation of covertly sheltering Taliban leaders, an accusation Islamabad vehemently denies. In news from Afghanistan, Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani on Thursday inaugurated the Lapis Lazuli corridor, which will connect Afghanistan to the Black Sea and ultimately to the Mediterranean Sea and Europe.
Afghan President Ashraf Ghani at the ceremony in Herat province on Thursday inaugurated the Lapis Lazuli corridor, where he said the route enables Afghanistan to send its products to Europe and other parts of the world. Ghani said Afghanistan is in favor of connectivity policy and that the inauguration of the corridor is a milestone in this regard. The Lapis Lazuli route agreement was signed in October 2017 between Afghanistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan and Georgia. The route begins in Afghanistan's northern Agina port in Faryab province and Torghandi in western Herat province. The corridor through Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Georgia also connects Afghanistan to the Black Sea and ultimately through Turkey to the Mediterranean Sea and Europe.
In news from Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka's Supreme Court on Thursday ruled that President Maithripala Srisena's decision to dissolve parliament ahead of its term was unconstitutional. The ruling came as a setback for the embattled leader in his dispute with ousted Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Sri Lankan President Maithripala Srisena's decision to dissolve parliament ahead of its term was unconstitutional, the Supreme Court ruled on Thursday, a setback for the embattled leader in his dispute with ousted Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Security was tight around the Supreme Court building in Colombo on Thursday as people gathered to celebrate the decision. The court said Srisena could not dissolve parliament before it had completed most of its 5-year term. The ruling raises the possibility of Wickremesinghe being reinstated as Prime Minister since his coalition enjoys a majority in the parliament.
As a country, we all have to be joyful, and we have to celebrate the fact that we have an authentic, independent judiciary that has acted as a check on the power of the executive. Today, the Supreme Court judgment amply exemplifies through their unanimous decision that the Constitution was violated.
President Srisena had dissolved parliament last month and called a general election for January 5th, days after sacking Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and naming opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa to the post. On Wednesday, Wickremesinghe received 117 votes in favour in the 225-member legislative body. The confidence vote and court ruling is now expected to increase pressure on the president to reappoint him as Prime Minister. Moving on to news from Bangladesh, Bangladesh's ruling Awami League party on Thursday kicked off campaigning for the parliamentary elections with hundreds of supporters taking to the streets and calling people to vote in the party's favour. The elections are scheduled to be held on December 30th this year.
Bangladesh's ruling Awami League party on Thursday kicked off campaigning for the parliamentary elections due this month, with hundreds of supporters taking to the streets and calling for the people to vote in favour of their party. The campaign trucks were also seen plying on the streets with supporters shouting slogans. Bangladesh is headed to the polls on December 30th in a showdown between the Awami League and multi-party opposition alliance Jatiya Oika Front, which includes the main opposition, Bangladesh Nationalist Party or BNP.
Leading people of different sectors of the society have joined in the campaign of Bangladesh, Awami League. So today we are going to start our campaign from Shahid Minar, and we shall start this campaign from Dhaka city. And they will go to different places of Dhaka city for the campaign in favor of our symbol, election symbol board.
The Awami League's president and incumbent Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, is seeking a third straight term in power. But critics say the election will be a litmus test for the strength of democracy in Bangladesh. The last election in 2014 was boycotted by the main opposition party, BNP, and shunned by international observers, with more than half of the seats uncontested.
In a simple yet unique wedding, around 90 underprivileged couples tied the nuptial knot during a mass marriage ceremony in India's northern Ayodhya city. The gesture by the organizers is aimed at reducing financial burden on the families of the bride.
Around 90 underprivileged Hindu couples on Thursday exchanged sacred vows and tied the nuptial knot in a mass wedding ceremony organized in Ayodhya city of India's northern Uttar Pradesh province. The ceremony, which was organized by a local charitable trust committee, witnessed participation of hundreds of relatives and friends of the couples. The trust also provided jewelry worth over $1,000 and basic essentials like utensils and furniture as gifts to the newlyweds.
तो करीब 90 गरीब कन्याओं का सामूहिक विवाह हम करवा रहे हैं।
किन-किन जाति समुदाय के लोग हैं?
कोई जातिवादी नहीं है यहाँ पे, वो चाहे निम्न जाति के हों, चाहे ऊंचे जाति के हों।
Mass weddings are becoming very popular, especially among economically backward sections of the Indian society, as these reduce the financial burden on the parents or guardians of the brides.
Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama on Friday said there was too much violence in the 20th century and people in the 21st century should not repeat it. He made the remarks while addressing a gathering of the students as a part of his 3-day visit to India's western Mumbai city.
Exiled Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama on Friday said there was too much violence in the 20th century and that 21st century should not repeat it. He made the remarks while addressing a gathering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, in India's western Mumbai as part of his 3-day tour to the city. He further said one needs peace to be happy and that genuine peace can only be developed through inner peace.
Concept of we and they. That creates violence and bully, exploitation, and worst thing, killing. So all these are ultimately related with our mind, with too much emphasis on differences. Now the only remedy is go deeper level, where all 7 billion human beings are same human being.
Dalai Lama has been living in exile in India since fleeing his predominantly Buddhist homeland in 1959 after a failed uprising against Chinese rule. He has set up his seat of power in India's northern Dharamshala town, which is regarded as the hub of Tibetan culture.
A unique Barak River Festival was recently organized in India's northeastern Manipur province to celebrate life and beauty of the region, besides giving a message for preserving its flora and fauna. Various tribal cultural performances and local cuisines were the main attraction of the festival this year.
With an objective of promoting India's northeastern Manipur province as a popular tourism destination across the world, a unique Barak River Festival was organized in Senapati district of the province. The festival, themed on sustaining peace and harmony, was held to send out a clarion call to people to come together for building a common bright future based on everlasting peace and harmony. The cultural performances by tribes of the region and their local cuisines were the main attractions of the festival. Besides this, traditional huts of tribal communities including Mau, Maram, Pumai, Thangal and Zeliangrong were also constructed at the festival venue.
Regarding about this, we have got a traditional maroon where we settle, where we gather in the evening. Elders, they have their own tradition of eating or drinking wine. Today also will be the same thing. Wine will be served here, all this maroon.
The idea of Barak Festival was conceived a few years back by the Naga People's Organization for the collective tribes of Tahamzan or Senapati district and was first celebrated in 2015. Since then, it has been celebrated annually to give a message of preserving flora and fauna as well as maintaining the ecological balance of Manipur.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude the top stories once again. Indian President inaugurates 5th Enterprise India show in Myanmar. Sri Lanka's top court rules President's Parliament dissolution illegal. And Bangladesh's ruling Awami League kicks off election campaigning. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsia Newsline and follow us on Twitter at SAsia Newsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time next week. Have a great weekend and good night.